I am very supportive of the idea of no thought. I like Eckhart Tolle's teachings and a lot of the Buddhist teachings, getting to that place. I'm not into meditation, though. I think there are other ways to get there, and meditation does not hold a draw for me in the way that feeling pain body, as Eckhart Tolle talks about, does. Just feeling pain. But I do see that in the pursuit of no thought, it can be possible to try to avoid the grief process. Grief occurs whenever there's loss, and there are many different forms of loss. Usually we think of losing someone to death, or the end of a relationship, or the end of a job, these kinds of major life events. But when there is a loss, there is a process. Now, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross really learned a lot during her process about how it works. She thought of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance, these different phases. And originally, I believe, conceptualized it in a kind of, step-by-step order, in the order that I just mentioned. But then she realized that it took different forms, and it jumped around, and it wasn't a linear process. You could be in denial, then angry, then back in denial, and feel depressed, and then go to anger, and, bargain. Bargaining means, well, maybe if I can do this, I can get that situation back. Just trying to make deals. Kind of similar to denial in certain ways. But whatever phase you're in the grief process, it's important, I believe, to be present with it. And the ego is clever, and so any kind of way that it can maintain and control, it will. And that includes no thought. Now, I love when I get in places of no thought. It's just very blissful. It's like observing, witnessing what's happening, but not feeling that heavy chatter. And then when I'm in that place, it is a very tranquil and full experience. I heard Eckhart Tolle talking on one of his videos. It's called Freedom, something like Freedom from the World, or something like that. He talks about how people are looking for fun all the time because their life isn't fun, and so they're looking for external events to make them feel something, make them feel like they're stimulated and feeling alive and these kinds of things. But he mentioned something that resonated for me, which is that when you are in the moment and basically when you're living with a peaceful mind, you're not conflicted, then everything is fun, because just feeling your aliveness is fun. So in this pursuit of no thought, where everything becomes wonderful, the ego can use that to avoid grief. And I think that they are both useful. The process of grieving and the process of moving towards less thinking and more presence. But there are people who have gone through various forms of trauma and grief that utilize the pursuit of meditation and other Eastern practices to get to the place where they feel good. And I believe that grief there's something so useful and universal about it. When you study spirituality, you can walk into a New Age bookstore and see, hundreds of different ideas about how you heal. And it could be called spiritual, philosophical, psychological, whatever you want to call it. It's a way of feeling better. And so the ego can trick you into saying, well, if you just don't think about anything, you get into that Zen-like state, then everything's fine. But I believe that grief gets shoved into the unconscious mind where it haunts us, and life continues to be difficult, and the difficulties and the struggles are a blessing because they're showing us that something is wrong. When things are easy, we know we're on the right track and things are in flow and everything's coming together. That's a good sign. But if we suppress the losses that we experience into our unconscious mind and don't deal with them, or try to use spiritual practices to get around them, we don't get to the deeper healing that grief offers. So observe your denial. Observe your tendency towards bargaining in a situation of loss. Express and feel your anger in a way that doesn't hurt people, but it releases it from your body. Pound a mattress or a chair or pillow. Growl. Saying mean things, to release them. If they're cycling in your head, vocalize them. Not necessarily to another person, but just to get them out of your system. Feel that anger, express it, and just don't hold on to it. And the sadness, let yourself cry. If you're not comfortable crying, then force it a little bit. Then you will feel that release. It's like a energetic release through the breath that comes with a certain kind of crying movement that you can allow yourself. So don't deny any losses. Let yourself feel them, and let yourself feel all the stages of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and know that they jump around, and then eventually get to acceptance. Your ego will tell you, I will never be the same after this loss. I will never feel alive. I'll never feel good. That's just ego. You will, and keep that in mind as you go through it. It can be dark at times, but you can handle the pain when you surrender to it and allow yourself to grieve fully. And when you've grieved it out, then that place of no thought is easier to attain.